I'm going to start this flow today with a heart opener. So I'm going to use 2 blocks. I'm going to put one behind my upper back and then one behind my head. And I'm just going to play with this. I'll see how I want to adjust it later. But this one's on the lowest height, and this one's on the second height. And you could always change it to taller, or even this one lower and this one taller. So we're just going to see. I'm going to see where I am right now. I don't know. But I'm going to try to situate this block right on my shoulder blades, so not in the mid-rib. Right now it's not high enough. I'm going to inch down so that the bottom tips of my shoulder blades are right on that bottom edge of the block. And then get it centered evenly on the shoulder blades. And your head rests on the block. So the center, the back of your head is just resting gently comfortably on that block. So the block shouldn't be angled or falling or tilting. And then you can reach your arms out to the side, open your chest a little bit here to the ceiling by pushing down into the block just very gently with the shoulder blades. And if you feel like that sends too much of an arch in your low back, then you can start to take your feet together and open your knees, and that'll kind of help to scoot your sit bones out. If this is too intense on your inner thighs, another option is to take the feet wider and knees together, and that'll help pull the low back out of hyperextension. But it's okay to have a natural little back bend in the lumbar spine here. And just let your breath move in and out of your nose. Feel your breath moving right back into that block. And take a moment to locate where your breath is moving from to where it's going. So you'll notice if you breathe and only your chest lifts, maybe belly lifts, maybe shoulders lift. I'm not going to tell you which one of those is not ideal, but just feel which one's more efficient, and then see if you can direct the breath to the belly to move from the belly. So there's your answer. The belly breath is ideal. And so that doesn't mean I don't want to press into the block then when I inhale. So the challenge here is to balance that breath out from belly into that block and then up into the back of your head. And then let it move out, pulling the breath, pushing the breath out from your belly. Pulling the breath in from your belly. Feel your back expand into the block. And feel your head connect to the block without any extra pressure, just a sense of extra space. And exhale, use your belly to gently push the breath out. And just take a few rounds of breath here. If you need more, please stay as long as you like and catch up when you're ready. Then I'm going to start to prepare to come off the blocks. So I'm going to take my feet to the floor. I'm going to push off with my left foot and come over to my right elbow, and then just come to seated. Let's block that out of the way. Easy seated position. And again, if you need more time in that heart opener, please stay there as long as you'd like. You can cross your ankles, or you can stack your shins in front of the other, or rather your heels. And then just in a seated position here that makes sense to your body, whether it's Siddhasana or Sukhasana. Drop your weight back into your sit bones. Find that breath in and out of your nose from your belly to the upper back, into the back of your head. And then I'm going to twist to my left. So I'm going to take my right hand to my left thigh, left fingertips behind, push down into my sit bones and take a big inhale and open my chest up. And then exhale, twist. And again, big inhale up. And exhale, twist. And one more. Inhale, lift. And exhale, twist. Release on your inhale. And take your hands forward, press back into your sit bones, and just drop your chin. Lengthen out the back of your neck. All right, and then walk back up to seated, and we'll take that to the second side. Left hand to your right thigh, right hand behind. Push down into your sit bones. Big inhale, lift your chest. And exhale, twist. Inhale, press that chest up past the shoulders. Inhaling. Exhaling, twist. One more. Inhale. And exhale. And then come back over to center. Untwisting, inhale. Walk your hands forward one more time. Drop your chin, lengthen out the back of your neck, and press back through your sit bones. All right, I'm going to come back up and then come back down onto my back. Grab knees into chest, Uttanasan. Little rock and roll side to side. Maybe even some knee circles here. So I'm going to take my knees out and around and back in, out and around and back in. Inhale, push them away, circle, exhale, pull. Let's go the other direction, to the right. Inhale, press them away. Exhale, pull it back over. And then one more. Okay. All right, rock and roll up and down and come all the way over, crossed ankles into hands and knees pose, into a tabletop position. And then take your right foot back and press your right heel towards the floor. Keep your left knee right under your left hip. Left toes can tuck or they can flatten out behind. Press the big toe straight back. Press back down into the heel. And press your hands into the mat almost like you're going to take downward facing dog. Take a nice little calf stretch here. And then I'm going to take this across and I'm going to squeeze my inner thighs so that my right hip doesn't pull back. And then again, press back through the right heel. So stretching the calf muscles, the gastrocnemius and the soleus. Keep pressing with your hands. Engage your belly. And keep squeezing your inner thigh so the outer hip doesn't pull back. And then come back up to hands and knees, right hip and knee, stack back up again. And then left leg straight back. Tuck those toes under. Palms flat. So you can start with your shoulders over your wrist, and then you can start to push your shoulders back behind your wrist, behind your wrists. And then index finger and thumb really pinch that mat. Create a hasta bandha here, a hand lock, by lifting the inner palm like a suction cup without letting the base of the index finger lift. And keep pressing that left heel back down towards the floor. Little draw in of the belly, right above the belly button. Those core muscles are drawing in and up. Okay, and then I'm going to take this across the left side over to the right side. Squeeze my inner thigh so my left hip doesn't pull back. And then again, press back. Take that heel towards the floor. Push in with those hands. Engage the belly. Shoulders are open, so try not to round your chest or round your upper back rather too much. And keep pinching the mat with your index and thumb, index finger and thumb. Okay, and then come back over to tabletop, stacking the left hip and knee again. We'll take this into a twist here. So if you want a block, you could have a block handy if you find the spinal twist here tough, so I'm just going to keep it handy. Right hand's going to come through behind the left wrist, and then I'm just going to start by setting my right shoulder down. And then I'm going to keep my left hand on the floor. And then I'm going to twist open by pushing down into the floor with my right shoulder and my right knee. And so I'm not trying to get my hand over any farther than it needs to go. So the block here, if you have a tough time getting your right shoulder to the floor, you could put the block under your shoulder and it would go right where your hand was in table. So I'm just stepping my left hand forward, right hand comes behind, right block or right shoulder on the block, and then press up. Ooh, that actually might be a little bit more challenging. So play with it and see which one works better for you. But again, you're pushing down into the right knee and pushing down into your right shoulder and using your left hand to open up here. All right, take your left hand flat if you had any other arm variation there and press the floor away to come out of it. And then we'll get that second side twist in. Between sides, take the big toes together and open up your knees just a little bit and start to sit back down towards your heels. And then when you do this, it's kind of a tuck of the tailbone, kind of. So you're pulling the sit bones towards the heels instead of your pubic bone towards the toes. So instead of pressing those sit bones back, draw the sit bones towards the heels, okay? And here, if you wanted, you could have your toes tucked under and stretch out your toes. Oh, that feels so good. Especially if you've been walking a lot, since it's been nicer outside. And this will feel good to your feet. But again, it's those sit bones towards heels. And then drop your forehead a little. Open your upper back. Stretch the shoulder heads away from each other. And hollow out your armpits. And then inhale, come up into tabletop. And then again, we'll take this into the other side twist. I'm going to take my left arm. My shoulder is going to come down right where my left hand was. And then I'm just going to stretch the left arm through, flip the palm up, push down into the left knee and the left shoulder. Oof. And then twist. This gets me. Oh, yeah. Again, you could put the block under your left shoulder and let the side of your head come to the floor and just kind of look back towards your inner right hip. I mean, like your outer right hip. I think that would be better. If you take it too far and you're going to tuck your chin in, you want to keep the chin pretty lined up with the shoulder. Keep pushing into your left shoulder and your left knee and your right hand. Okay, use your right hand on the floor then to come out of that. Back into a tabletop pose. Cat-cow if it feels good. You can open your chest, inhale, dip your belly button down, and then exhale, draw those sit bones back down towards the back of your knee pit as you press your arms away, hollow out your chest and your armpit. And then inhale, open your chest, smile your collarbones, exhale, round. Inhale, open. And then keep this opening. And then we're going to take this into an extension of this Utkatasan, heart pose. Also, a block would come in handy here under your chest if you feel like this is a really intense posture for you. I'm going to set the block right under where my chest would go, and you may have to play with this. Hands are going to walk forward. I'm going to keep my knees, though, right in line with my hips. In fact, if anything, the hips might come back a little bit behind the knees, but definitely not forward of the knees. It puts way too much pressure in the shoulder joint, and we don't want that kind of a compression. So here, if you need your chest on the block, or you can take your chest to the floor. And if your chest is coming towards the floor, maybe your forehead comes to the mat or your chin. And keep pushing into the mat with your hands and pinching the index finger and thumb. Point your big toes back and use your calf muscles to do that. Use the front of your shin muscles to press the tops of your ankles down to the floor. All right, and then come back up. Inhale, lift your shoulders so you can walk your hands back up under your shoulders. And then we'll take this into downward facing dog. So I'm going to move my hands forward a little bit and set up the pinch in my fingers. So I'm looking at my hands. There's an even spacing between each digit. My wrist creases are even with the top of my mat. They're lined up with the top of my mat. So my mat is running here. Wrist creases are running parallel. So whichever a digit needs to point forward, maybe it's 2 digits, the index finger and or the peace finger or the second finger. Create that Hasta Bandha, lift your knees, lift your inner wrist creases up and press your elbows forward. Lift your sit bones up. So this is the opposite of child's pose. And then try not to collapse into your shoulders once you lift those sit bones up. And so hollow out your armpits here and open those collarbones. And keep pinching the mat with your index finger and thumb. Keep the base of your index finger on the floor and lift the center point of the palm up. You can bend your knees and lift your heels here if that helps. Okay, and then walk your feet up to your hands. We'll come into a forward fold Uttanasan. Take a half lift here if you want a block or 2 under your hands. Feel your weight move forward into the fronts of your feet, the balls of your feet. Spread out your toes. Press down into the center of your heels. And imagine you're pressing a strap away around your thighs, like you're squeezing a strap out, trying to break it off. And at the same time, you're hugging a block between your thighs. And in fact, if you've got the block handy, you might want to even try the thigh squeeze. That sometimes helps with Uttanasan. And use the front of your hips here to fold. Your core is folding you in, and your back muscles are relaxed, lengthening the spine. Okay, and then I'm going to come up to stand. So first I like to take a half lift so that I can engage those back muscles first. And then from here, I know now my glutes, my hamstrings, and my back muscles are all working to continue to lift all the way up. They're continuing to squeeze and inhale, lengthen chest, reach your arms up, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, Samastitihi, standing pose. Ooh, and then we're going to move through Sun Salutation C. So if you need a moment here just to stand or work out any extra kinks before we start to flow, take your time. Okay, on your inhale, inhaling the whole way, reach your arms up. Exhale, forward folding the whole way, exhaling, squeezing the front thigh, glutes, or quad muscles, low belly, deep core, forward fold, exhale. Step your left leg back and lower your left knee down. Inhale, either hands to thigh or arms up. Anjaneyasana. Exhale, take your hands to the floor. And then really right away, situate your hands for that Hasta Bandha. Squeeze the mat. Step back, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Come into plank pose. Lower your knees down in plank pose. Open your chest forward. Bend your elbows towards your ribs and take your chest towards your thumbs down to the floor. 8-point bow, Ashtangasana. Inhale, then point your toes back and lift your kneecaps as you open your chest through, bending your elbows and try not to let your shoulders lift higher than your chest. Exhale, up and back. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Left foot steps forward, right knee down. And then again, hands to your left thigh, just to give that right hip a little opening, the front of your right hip. Or inhale, reach your arms, Anjaneyasana. Exhale, release your hands to the floor. Push off of your right foot to step up, Uttanasan. Inhale, again, use those back muscles, glutes, hamstrings, all the way up, Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, Samastitihi, standing pose. Okay, get the second side in. Inhale, push down through your heels, big toe mound of your foot, and reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Uttanasan, use the front of your body to fold. Right leg comes back, so lift up out of that massive forward fold to make space for your hips to move. Inhale, hands to thigh or arms up to ceiling. Squeeze your inner thighs toward each other. Exhale, hands down. Pinch the mat with your index and thumb. Create that Hasta Bandha. Step back, Adho Mukha Svanasana. And inhale into plank pose. And again, knees down and plank, shoulders are over your fingertips. Exhale, keep taking your chest forward beyond those fingertips. Chest down. Look forward. Chin can come down if you want. And then inhale into Cobra, Bhujangasana. Lift those kneecaps, point your toes back, especially through the big toe. Take your chest through, shine out through your armpits, and exhale, up and back. Downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Right foot forward for the low lunge, left knee down. Push the floor away, draw those inner thighs toward each other, hands to thigh, or arms up, inhale. Exhale, hands down. Step up, forward fold, Uttanasan. Push down into your feet, lift from your back. Urdhva Hastasana. Exhale, Samastitihi. And just take a moment here if you need to find your balance. Inhale, reach back up. And exhale, forward fold, Uttanasan. Step back, downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Inhale forward into plank pose. First Chaturanga. Exhale, bend your elbows, maybe knees first. Inhale, float to the tops of your feet. Stretch back through your big toes. Squeeze your kneecaps up, lifting from your quads. Exhale, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Okay, step your left foot over to the center. Reach your right leg up. Inhale, three-leg dog. And then exhale, pull your knee into your chest. Shift your weight forward into your hands so that you can step your right foot forward. Turn your left heel down. Warrior one. Heels are lined up. Right toes forward. Left toes angled out. Bend your right knee forward and press down into the floor with the outer left peroneus, the outer left calf muscles. Press down. And keep your chest up. Your gaze can follow, but if it's easier to look straight forward, just look straight forward. But then open your shoulders. Turn your elbows in. Turn your pinkies in. And then turn your torso to your left. And then take your arms out. Pancake the palms down. Feet are the same. Knees are the same. Left knee is lifted. Left thigh is engaged. Right knee is pushing forward. Outer hip pulling the right thigh open. Left hand slides down your left leg. So you're not leaning into it, it's sliding down. And then simply lift your right arm up. And press up as you bend forward a little bit more with the right knee. Press straight arm, left. And then exhale. Shift forward. Inhale. Lift your left leg if you can. Right leg is starting to get a little shaky. Warrior three. Lift from the inside of your left leg. I like to take my hands straight down. It just helps for balance. Take your arms out, or you could take your arms forward. Squeeze your inner thighs toward each other and keep turning that right hip up to the ceiling. So push the right hip higher. And then bend your right knee, land next to your left foot. Utkatasan, fierce pose. Lift your arms, lift your chest. Sit down towards your heels with the backs of your hamstrings, the backs of your glutes. Nice back bend here. And then reach your arms out, down, Hips up, knees straighten, forward fold. Uttanasan. You can step back or you can float back, Chaturanga. If you're floating back, take an inhale, half lift. Look forward, plant your palms, bend your knees, and then your elbows bend the moment your feet leave the floor. So sometimes it's easy just to play with a step back rather than a shoot back. So the moment my feet lift, which I'm just going to step back, elbows are going to bend. So let's go elbows bend first, foot steps back, Chaturanga. Inhale, cobra or upward facing dog. Exhale, downward facing dog. Pinch the mat with your index finger and thumb. Open those shoulders. Spread out your ribs, but then press the outer ribs down towards the floor. The outer rib muscles. Stretch the rib cage apart. Okay, take your right foot center and lift your left leg up. Left knee into your chest. Take your weight forward, shoulders over your wrists. Turn your right heel down. Push into the outer right foot using those outer right shin muscles, calf muscles, and then come up to a standing position with your chest facing forward, but your hips are allowed to move in the direction they need to move, so we're not forcing the right hip forward, instead the right ribs. Bend that left knee straight forward and resist with the outer right foot. Circle your arms out and up and keep your arms out wide. So lift your chest here. Press that outer right foot down. Squeeze your right glutes to extend your right hip. Use your left calf muscles to push down into your left heel. Then turn your torso to the right without letting your hips move more than they need to. Open your arms, pancake those palms flat. Keep bending forward into that left knee. Keep pushing out into that right foot. Keep those right glutes engaged. Inner left thigh is so long. Top of your left thigh is super strong. Squeeze your upper back muscles around your shoulder blades. And then again, your right hand rests on your right thigh, but your right arm is stretching, so your triceps are stretching. So the right shoulder blade muscles are also working to open the right collarbone. Bend your left knee even more, stretch up with your left hand, and press back through your right arm so you're not leaning on your right hand. Squeeze that right glute, press through the right thigh, and then come forward and set yourself up for Warrior 3. Hands can come down, out, or to hips, and then right away lift that left hip up, squeeze your right thigh to press the right knee straight, and then use your right glutes, right calf muscles, right hamstrings. Push down into your left heel. Use your front left hip area to flex that hip. Squeeze your inner thighs together. Bend your left knee, right foot comes next to left foot. Utkatasan. Open your heart. Sit down a little bit more with the back of those glutes, the bottom of the glutes. And then forward fold, exhale, Uttanasan. Again, if you're going to take that shoot back, half lift. If you're going to step back, plank to Chaturanga. When you're ready to play with both feet shooting back, your hands would come forward a little farther. And then you would, so they're not right here, they're forward. So you would bend your elbows and take your knees towards the floor, towards your thumbs, and then back. Bend elbows, and then up. And then on the third one, I'm going to keep my elbows bent and shoot. Inhale, up dog, and exhale, downward facing dog. From fingers to heels, you feel energized, but you don't feel anything pulling, pushing, or jamming. So index finger and thumb, squeeze. Fingerprints press, leave the fingerprints on the mat. Armpits engage, upper back lengthens, low back lifts up to the ceiling, thighs engaged, and press down into the feet. Heels do not have to hit the floor. There's just an energetic draw to that direction. Inhale forward into a belly pronated position. So you can move through bow, Dhanurasana. I'm not gonna lie, haven't been loving this posture lately. So that means I need to do it more, I guess. So if bow hurts though, that doesn't mean you need to do it more. It means stay away from it for a minute. You can stay with cobra, sphinx pose, locust, any of the back bends on the belly that work for you. For Dhanurasana though, let's just play with bow here, or with cobra, and then bending your knees. So you can stay here, okay? That might be just enough to see where your weakness is and why the pose, for me, I don't love. It's because my front hips are not super open. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is bend one foot, hand to foot, and press that foot up. And you can stay there. Switch sides when you're ready. These are just options. I don't expect you to follow along with me this fast. I'm just giving you progressions for this posture, okay? If you're in half bow, maybe one hand comes forward. It may be better to keep one hand on the floor behind for the upper back to stay propped and the low back to stay supported. So when my hand came forward, I felt a push straight back into that lumbar, which did not feel good. And then for bow pose, Dhanurasana. Both knees bend, hands to feet. Press your feet back and pull back on your feet with your elbows, but don't bend your elbows. Press your feet out as wide as you need and then squeeze in with your adductors, the inner thighs. Breathing here, creating, they call it an abdominal airbag. So you can squeeze the core to compress the abdominal muscles to stabilize the spine. And then lower down and rest. All right, so after a moment there, resting, you come up to table. Move slowly into table so that you're not shocking your low back. We've got one more back bend to go. So I wouldn't suggest a deep forward fold at this point unless you're skipping the back bend. And then please feel free to move right into child's pose or even downward dog or a standing forward fold. Uttanasan is the next back bend we're going to take. I'm just staying in tabletop here for a moment to catch my breath. Hopefully you're not talking and doing this at home so your breath isn't this jacked up. All right. So for camel, my favorite way to get into it, and I think it's the safest to prevent low back pinch, is to start in a seated position in Vajrasana with your sit bones on your heels, or Virasana with your heels outside of your hips. Couple blocks behind you are really nice to have here, especially if you know that camel is a tight posture for you. So what I would suggest is hands on blocks or hands on floor, chest up to the ceiling, and then press your hips up, press your thighs up. And this is a fine modification for camel. It's just going to work the front of those hips instead of bypassing the area that needs work and trying to ignore it and move around it, and then moving into the posture regardless of these areas that are resistant, and that's not what we're trying to do. So from a kneeling position, when we come back into it, if you're not creating that abdominal airbag, then you just kind of fall into your low back, and then what happens is you press your hips way over your knees to compensate, and then this pinch in the low back happens. So for me, and anybody, as you're practicing, everybody as you're practicing, decide which one's better for you. But for me, it's easier with hands back, lifting my hips up, opening my chest, and then I notice how my shoulders are opening today. It's different every day. And then you can start to walk your hands up to your heels. Your fingertips will kind of come back on your soles and point in the direction of your toe pads. And then you don't have to be all the way forward, but you can start to press your hips over your knees and lift your chest up to the ceiling. Squeeze your thigh bones back into your body though, so don't try to let them run away from you. Low back is long, and to do that, pull up out of your upper back. So pull up from your low back, so coming out of your low back by engaging the upper back and pressing your chest up. And then you can push down into your knees to pull up to kneeling. Or you can lower back down and reverse the process to get out of it. All right, tabletop pose. Again, just neutralizing the spine and the breath. Okay, I'm going to take this into plank so that I can set up for side plank, Utkatasan. So I'm going to take, again, my hands forward a little bit, shoulders over my wrist. This is modified plank. For modified side plank, take your feet together, and then you're going to split your right foot back and roll over to the sole of your left heel and reach your left hand up. If you are taking Utkatasan with straight legs, plank, squeeze your heels together, squeeze your ankles together, lift up, squeeze your thighs, pull your heels back, so you would be forward in plank, so pull your heels back and then over and keep the flexion in your ankles, the dorsiflexion. So you're pulling your toes up to your shins, using those front shin muscles to do that. Lengthen your right side, so you're not pulling your right shoulder up. You're pressing your right shoulder forward and shining that right armpit through without turning your left hip back. So this is opening, this is turning forward. There's a ringing, spiraling energy happening there. You can look up to your left hand, press through the right triceps, press through your left triceps, press back into your left heel, pull those toes up to the shins. And then from here, left foot comes behind. And then you can step on the sole of your right foot. Maybe you got to wiggle it in a little closer. Wild thing. Lift your left heel, engage your left glutes, roll your left triceps to the ceiling and press your left arm straight. And then look to your left fingers if you can. And then look down to your right thumb. Left hand comes over, pull your left knee into your chest, shoot your left foot out. And then instead of opening up your right hand, just lower your left hip down and pull back with your left shoulder. Squeeze your inner thighs and lift your right heel to the ceiling so you're not rolling to the outside edge of your right foot. Flex your left ankle, pull your left hip back, push your right hip forward, and then shine your chest here. Pull your left knee back under and step back. Adho Mukha Svanasana. You're welcome to move through a Chaturanga, Vinyasa. Exhale, inhale. Exhale, you're also welcome to take a moment in child's pose at this point. We're done with the intense back bending. That wild thing isn't too crazy. It should be more of a gentle back bend for your back, but a little more challenging for your hands and your shoulders, right? Okay, second side. As you're ready, please take as long as you need to pause and get that breath to cycle out to its a little bit more of a calmer pace. So again, if you're coming into this from the hands and knees position, shoulders move over your fingertips, legs are together, and then you're going to split your left foot back as your right heel rolls down. Without even lifting your right foot off the floor, your right heel just rolls down. And there's your modified side plank. And then I didn't show you this, but if you're taking a modified side plank, wild thing's the same thing. You just take your foot up behind your left calf and press yourself open. Okay? All right, so I'm going to come back into the straight leg side plank. Shoulders forward. I'm going to tuck my toes, lift. This is plank for me. Now I'm going to pull back with my heels, ankles together, roll over to the outer left heel. The outer left ankle bone is not collapsing down to the floor. And I'm also not lifting my hips too high. Press down from the back of your left shoulder. Try to get your right hip to spiral forward and your left armpit to spiral up to the ceiling. So it's like wringing out a washcloth. And then your right foot comes behind and lift up. You can wiggle that left foot in a little closer. Again, roll the triceps up to face the ceiling. So you can look up to your biceps, maybe to your right fingertips. Push the floor away with your left shoulder. Smile that left armpit. Use your left glutes. Use your right glutes. And then look down to your left thumb. Roll back over. Pull the right knee in. Open your chest. Shoot the right foot out. And try to get the foot to come up, not up as high as your hand. About in line with your hip, maybe slightly higher. So your heel and hip are about in the same line. And then from here, squeeze those inner thighs. Press the right hip down. Drop it down, actually. Press into your right hand. Open your chest. Squeeze your inner thighs. Keep the left heel from turning out. And then keep the left hip moving forward and your right hip pulling back. Squeeze your left thigh. And pull your right knee under. And step back. Downward facing dog. All right, go ahead and take your knees to the floor. You can sit back for a moment and just pause in Vajrasan. I'm going to take forearm stand next. So a couple different progressions for forearm stand that you can play with. And please feel free to find a wall or use your chair at home if you've got a chair handy. Elbow dog is the first really good option. So that would be elbows on the floor. And since forearm stand is with the forearms parallel, we want to work our downward facing dog like that. So the elbow dog would be with the arms parallel, not the hands together. So if you're not sure about the downward facing dog with your hands, so if you take downward facing dog and your hands move together, stay in tabletop. And then what you could do is flip your palms either facing each other or palms up. And then here you could press up into downward facing dog. And that might help reduce the turn in. If they're still turning in, use a block so they don't turn in all the way. Place your elbows in line with your shoulders. So your elbows should go right under the center head of your shoulder, not the outer, not the inner, the center head of your shoulder. If your palms are down on the floor, you can always brace or frame the block with your index finger and thumb, and that sometimes helps. And then here, lift your hips. Look to the block though, look to your thumbs or your wrists, and make sure your wrists are pressing down into the floor. And you're not pressing your shoulders back here. You're actually pressing the shoulders up to the ceiling and working on not moving forward here, right? And not rounding in your upper back. That's why the head needs to be lifted. So you're really using your upper back neck muscles, okay? And then you can take one foot up, lower your heel, lift it up. Lower your heel, lift it up. Maybe you take your forehead to that block and take a couple of these on each side. And that could be your progression. And your right knee can be bent, right? It doesn't need to be straight. But if your right knee's bent, the tendency is to go down at an angle. So please avoid that. Go forward and back. Forward and back. Okay? And maybe a little hop. Little hop. Okay? Hop knee bends. That will help. Hop knee bends. Keep looking to your thumbs. And then take a break as you need. So just working on this, not rushing into it, and not expecting more than you can give at this point in time. Okay, so having a wall, or using a wall is handy. So you're welcome to go to the wall and play with that. It's also, if you're using the wall, a good idea to face away from the wall and walk your feet up in a 90-degree angle. And that way your feet are on the wall, but you're placing all the weight in the shoulders and training them how to support this posture, because that's the foundation. Your hands, forearms, elbows, and then the shoulders, kind of by proxy, but all right. It is easier to catch some airtime in this if you bend the top knee back and then bend the bottom knee into your chest. And it's kind of a counterweight. Pull your shoulders back though. Don't let them dump down towards your wrists. Push up with your elbows. Use your elbows to press your feet up. Squeeze your glutes, squeeze your thighs. Look to your wrists. Use your triceps. You're pushing from your triceps. And then you can come down when you're ready. Hi, hi, hi. So take as long as you want to play with that. Don't burn yourself out. I remember when I was first practicing that posture, I'd walk away with rug burns on my elbows. So be kind to yourself. But if you've got the juice, you've got the extra energy, man, keep going. I'm done, so I'm going to move on. So after a few moments in Balasana or child's pose, then make your way to seated, and we'll take just an easy seated twist here. I'm going to cross my ankles. You are welcome to take Agni Stambhasan. In fact, I think I'm going to do that because that sounds really good. So I'm going to stack my shins, one in front of the other or on top of the other. So you could think of this as opposite ankle to knee pose. I've got my right leg on top. You could have your right leg in front. Again, easy seated pose is just fine, is just a great option, just as good. Keep your ankles flexed if you're in Agni, and then if you're going to twist, take your left hand to your right shin, or I'm sorry, left hand, right thigh, and then your right hand behind you and twist to your right. Again, you could do this in an easy seated position, ankles crossed. Okay, release your twist. And forward fold here, wherever you are. And then inhale, come up to seated and uncross your ankles or unwrap your Agni, unstack your Agni, the fire log. Second side, I'm going to have my right leg under or behind. Again, you could take the shin in front, it does not have to go on top. And you could just cross your ankles the other way if you're taking the easy seated position. Take a moment to let the posture settle. So if you need to forward fold first, let the hips accept this pose. Sometimes it takes a minute. Flex both ankles again if you're in Agni, and take the outer ankle bone up away from the floor and away from your left ankle bone, away from your right thigh. And then for the twist, right hand, left thigh, left hand behind, and open your torso. Press your torso through your shoulders instead of twisting back farther. Lift up higher. It'll feel better. Just focusing on your breath here. And then untwist as you inhale. Use your exhale to fold. And use blocks as you like here. Support your head if you'd like. All right, and then inhale, come back up to seated, and you can unwrap your legs and end up back onto your back in a supine position. And let your feet come to the floor, and just let your back just neutralize, just let it simmer down here. And then take the twist of your choice, whatever kind of a twist seems like a good idea to you. Sometimes for me, it's just a matter of taking my feet apart and letting the knees like windshield wiper over. And if I push my left knee down, it just feels so good on the low back. So the twist that I need, I know my low back suffers from all of the hip flexion that I do in my aerial arts. And so this for me is really going to get in this area and feel good. And I can actually take my right ankle on my left thigh. So determine what's going on with your body. You know, are you a runner? Are you a walker? A bicyclist? Is it the middle back, the upper back that needs a little bit more attention? Maybe it's the outer IT bone or IT band. So you could have your left leg up and over And that'll get the outer iliotibial, especially if you're a runner, you know, a biker. Eagle legs, right? Those are nice to take. The number 4 shape. Again, let your heart stay open, your shoulders soft, and your arms relaxed. They're just anchors. They're not leverage right now. They're just anchors. And then I'm going to inhale up into the second side twist. Before rushing into that second side, though, again, just letting everything stop. Letting everything check in. And then going off to the left. So my left knee just falls over, right knee falls over, and you don't even need to use your ankle on the top of the thigh for that extra push, but if it feels good, you could. Feels good. And then again, if you want to take the right leg up and out to the side or wrap your legs up like eagle, just allow the pose to do something for your body rather than just taking these supposed, I've been told this is what we do at the end of a yoga class, so this is what I should do, right? Just do what feels good to your body. Okay, that's the most important thing. And also take as long as you need on either side of these, both sides of these twists. If one side you need to stay longer, please do that. Or if one side needs a different shape, do that, because you're going to have differences from side to side. Not everything needs to be identical from one side to the other. In fact, rarely does it, ever. All right, and then I'm going to inhale up. And again, just let everything simmer after that twist. I just want everything to come back into neutral. Make sure that there aren't any more stretch reflexes turned on and everything's just calming down here. And end your practice with a relaxation pose that suits your needs. Shavasana is simply just a posture. It's not a practice. The practice that we're moving into now is quietness, relaxation, stillness. So you can find stillness, you can find quiet, and you can find relaxation in any posture that does that for you, obviously. So I would say, you know, like taking a bunch of shoot backs aren't going to do it, right? But stillness, find some stillness in any pose that makes sense. It could be seated, it could be on your side, child's pose, right? Constructive rest pose, which is what I'm in now. Or Shavasana. But wherever you land, always feel the freedom to move, feel the freedom to change it up. So maybe you want to practice 4 or 5 different relaxation postures. It's quality, right? Not quantity. And then as you're resting here, express deep gratitude for yourself, for your strengths, for your resiliency, and for that deep inner happiness, contentment. And take as long as you need here, yogis.